They're happening thousands of times every day. Ransomware attacks are the cyber threat of our times. It seems like no one is safe from having their data encrypted by dark web forces, only to be asked to pay to get it back.
The share of ransomware attacks really dramatically rose over the past years, and usually by more than 100 up to 200% per year.
They're making businesses poorer.
This is, big money, hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe even billions of dollars per year in ransom attacks.
And hackers much, much richer.
The best cyber criminals in the world, like some of the young guys in St. Petersburg or in other cities around the world, they're making $1 million a month.
We're witnessing the industrialization of cybercrime. Not only is there money to be made in demanding large ransoms from hacking victims or from selling their precious data onto third parties, but there's also a business opportunity in servicing the hackers themselves.
In this video, we'll follow the money. How much are hackers making? Who is helping them? And what are the costs of paying the ransom or not?
I'm in the district of Anhalt-Bitterfeld in the German state of Saxony-Anhalt. Just a few weeks ago, the council here fell victim to a savage cyber attack. Hackers got into their computer systems and crippled them.
Ich habe den Computer hochgefahren und die Oberfläche, der Desktop, sah ein bisschen anders aus. Da habe ich mir aber noch keine Gedanken gemacht. Ja? Und man macht dann irgendeine Anwendung auf, ein Word-Schreibprogramm zum Beispiel will man aufmachen und es geht nicht. Da war jetzt aber hier dann nichts von Verschlüsselung oder es ging nichts.
The council had fallen victim to a classic ransomware attack. Here's how they usually work. Having chosen their victim, the hacker gains access to key files on their computer, having exploited some security flaw to get in. The hacker then encrypts the files, meaning the victim can no longer use them. They'll then discover a ransom demand from the hacker, pay up and get your files back. 2021 has seen ransomware attacks on a scale never seen before. A hack on the Colonial Pipeline affected fuel supplies to much of the US East Coast. Another cyber attack on software provider Kaseya had an impact on businesses around the world.
Im Laufe des Tages oder im Laufe des nächsten Tages hat sich dann also das Schlimmste bewahrheitet, dass es ein Cyberangriff auf das gesamte Netzwerk des Landkreises an all seinen Standorten, wir haben 3 große Standorte in Köthen, Bitterfeld und Zerbst, dass das betroffen ist und dass ein weiteres Arbeiten über dieses Netzwerk mit der vorhandenen Technik erstmal nicht möglich ist.
As I speak to you, it's 3 weeks after the original cyber attack, but the council here still can't provide some pretty basic services. For example, in Anhalt-Bitterfeld, you can currently buy a car, but you can't drive it anywhere because you can't register it.
The quickest way out of a ransomware attack is to pay the ransom. Usually the victim will get access to their files back. But if they don't pay, well, their files stay encrypted, and the hacker may even threaten to sell access to those files to someone else.
Mal klipp und klar, wir werden kein Lösegeld bezahlen. Wir sind der öffentliche Dienst und öffentlicher Dienst lässt sich nicht erpressen.
So we don't know how much in ransom the hackers are demanding, but the cost to the council here of creating a whole new safe network is going to be huge.
Für den schlechtesten Fall, dass wir den Großteil unserer alten Hardware, also dann reden wir von dem oder von anderen Sachen, einen Großteil neu anschaffen müssen, weil diese nicht mehr verwendbar sind, dann sind wir nicht mehr im 6-stelligen, sondern im 7-stelligen Bereich.
As soon as a ransomware attack happens, the victim can be sure it's going to cost them.
Not only is the average ransom demand estimated at $150,000 to public and private bodies, but also there's the cost of recovery, and that's potentially the biggest cost of all. I mean, the average ransomware attack results in 21 days of downtime for a business. The cost of that is averaged at over $250,000.
Hackers are aware of these extra costs to the victims and use them to their advantage when setting the ransom.
They actually look at, how much money this company makes a month. If we're shutting everything down, how much is it going to cost that organization, and what's a good price to set our ransom at that's not too high, because we don't want them to avoid us and not pay it and try to find other ways to get back online, but not too low, because then we're leaving money on the table.
The past few years have seen ransomware attacks grow, not just in number, but in size. And with that, so have the ransoms.
Ransomware, if you think back to 2016, was an individual problem. And you would have to pay a couple $100 to get the key to recover that data. In 2016, 2017 timeframe, we started seeing threat actors emerge that understood that if they targeted an enterprise with that same attack, they could demand much higher dollar figures. So $300-$400 became $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in ransom attack. That has gone up, exponentially. I think we're seeing routinely millions and millions, tens, 50, $100 million, even more in some cases, in ransom demands.
And these enormous ransom amounts are being paid. Colonial Pipeline revealed it handed over $5 million to the hackers just a day after the cyber attack began. The world's biggest meat producer, JBS, paid $11 million to end its ransomware nightmare. Victims aren't always open about whether or not they pay out, but clearly enough of them are.
We're certainly seeing and aware of many of these ransom payments going out because we track the cryptocurrency wallets that these threat actors are using, and we're able to identify when there are payments being made. I think it's a lot more frequently than anybody would care to admit, because these threat actors aren't going to keep doing these types of attacks if they're not making money off of it.
However, the ransom isn't the only way the hackers can get money out of their victim. Remember, they've had access to all of their precious files.
They can also make money by reselling data that they gained in the attacks, for example, of course, private, personally identifiable data, or also, let's say, identity and access data that will allow third parties to maliciously exploit a company server or something like that.
We can't talk about the costs of cyber attacks without talking about cryptocurrencies.
The fact is, ransom payments aren't made in dollars or euros. They're made with cryptocurrencies, online encrypted currencies that leave no paper trail. Anonymous, untraceable, everything a hacker could want.
It's all the advantages of cash from a criminal standpoint, but with this added advantage of it being able to work across the internet. The problem with cash as a criminal is that it's physical and you have to move it. Cryptocurrency removes that issue for them. So it's obviously a fairly attractive way to get all this done.
They can effectively launder that without ever leaving their house. And then they can also do things like jump from one blockchain to another blockchain. So converting it from Bitcoin to Monero or something like that. And it becomes very hard to follow the money.
So who are they? Well, as the scale of the ransomware hacks has changed in recent years, so have the attackers.
Large-scale cyber attacks are rarely carried out by the archetypal individual hacker hunched over a keyboard in a dimly lit room. To attack a complex organization often takes a complex organization.
We see an increasing professionalization of ransomware groups actually conducting these attacks. So it's not only individuals.
It's a criminal activity where people want to make money. And there's a whole ecosystem there. There's an ecosystem of tools, ecosystems of organized crime networks, hacking networks, tool networks, teams that work together around the world.
That's Rod Beckstrom. Once head of the National Cybersecurity Center, he spent years on the front line of the US fight against cybercrime.
So for a moment, let's simplify the world and say there's three superpowers in hacking. There's US, Russia, China. They have very different models and different motivations. If you look at the US kind of wants to be the protector of the free world. So they're using their capabilities to watch what's going on in the world, prosecute crimes, prosecute drug rings, counterterrorism, et cetera, et cetera. If you look at China, their goal is to become, a super rich and prosperous middle kingdom, to be a world power. Russia, on the other hand, is lost its empire, right? The Soviet Union's gone. It may wish to regain that. And in the meantime, it doesn't have the same power status geopolitically it had before. And so it seeks relevance. How does it become relevant? By being disruptive.
And a great way to be disruptive is to interfere with your rival's infrastructure and their businesses.
There's an important distinction to make when it comes to national governments and cyber attacks.
And that's between states commissioning the hacks themselves or simply just allowing them to be carried out from their territory.
And there's definitely a sense of it being easier to conduct this sort of operation in certain parts of the world compared to others. So that's not the same as a nation state funding this type of activity, but in terms of its consequence, it's kind of similar.
The US and others have accused Russia of providing a safe haven for hackers, turning a blind eye to their activities as long as Russian targets are left alone. The Kremlin has never confirmed nor denied it. The country's surplus of computing talent and shortage of well-paid jobs make Russia a rich breeding ground for hackers.
When you have state-run hacking activities, the people that work for the state as employees of the government don't make nearly as much as they can make doing criminal activities. That this hacking is bad for Russia because you're teaching your best and brightest, your brilliant young people who could be building companies and building fruitful technologies. In many cases, are doing criminal activities. And that's not good.
Often these criminal groups can rival in size their biggest targets. Vast networks of hackers operating on the dark web, not only carrying out the ransomware attacks, but helping others to execute them too.
It's known as ransomware as a service, and like its legitimate counterpart, software as a service, it involves the leasing out of computer programs at a price. But you won't find a download link for these ones by searching on Google.
It handles all of the key management. It handles all of the data extortion in some cases. And it also can handle the negotiation and payment in some cases. And so you can come in as a fairly novice criminal actor, just having some skills, and use this ransomware as a service to basically be the back end of your operations.
What we can see is that these groups become increasingly professional, not only in terms of the tools that they develop, but also in terms of the, let's say, customer service they offer to clients.
And for that service, they're taking 20, 25, 30% off the top of the ransom demand.
These dark web services include a lot of the things we expect from the normal web. The wannabe hacker can get access to customer support, FAQs, and even reviews.
I would argue that ransomware operators took some cues from Silicon Valley, and that was actually a part of what kind of inspired ransomware as a service. It's not that Silicon Valley's to blame.
And these criminal groups won't just offer support to the hacker who hires them, they'll also offer their services to the party who's been hacked.
They engage with these victims in case victims have questions on, how to pay or how to regain their data or how to pay the ransom, because it's in the interest of these ransomware groups to get paid or to receive the ransoms.
If you get infected with ransomware, it will teach you how to sign up for a Bitcoin wallet, how to connect your credit card, do all these different things. It's very helpful in that sense. Like some of these operators even have like fully serviced and actually quite good support services.
The whole industry around hacking has reached a level of professionalism that many legitimate sectors could only dream of.
With the cybercrime business booming on the dark web, are we losing the battle against the hackers?
I don't think that either public or private companies are especially well prepared for ransomware attacks. These attacks are extremely complex, and the technologies that they target are extremely complex. So it's very difficult for one organization to secure their entire networks against any kind of attack.
It's about being, having good hygiene, being safe, but also being forward-looking with threat hunting and threat intelligence to make sure that you're not waiting to be a victim. Because if you are hoping it's not going to happen to you, hope is not a strategy.
Calling it out as a business model, that's deliberate because ransoms go back, at least 500, 600 years in terms of written history. Like, it's not a new idea. It's just being applied in this different framework. And that framework makes it really successful.
I have a law of cybersecurity. It's called Beckstrom's Law of Cybersecurity. It's 12 words. Anything networked can be hacked. Everything is being networked. Everything is vulnerable.
And that's all from this edition of DW Business Beyond. If you want to know more about the money that makes the world go round, check out our playlist. And while you're clicking on things, why not click on like and subscribe too? Cheers.